place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom alaikum to every one of you. We're so glad to have you. Welcome to the Proceeding Word. This is yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones Sr. We're right here, ready to get going on our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday broadcasting at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that is called the Proceeding Word. So glad to have you with us. Those of you joining us from the areas and the airwaves of the streamings, we want you to make sure you get those things ready. Put your hearts where they need to be, and make sure that you share your page. Hit your heart signs, go and get your subscriptions in the YouTube, as well as make it your business to like the page on Facebook. Clubhouse, you can do the same. We're going to be using our Bibles today, so you can join us. We're going to talk about a very important topic. Many people may not have understood this, but we're going to break this down very quickly, and we want you to learn how to live with it as you progress in the kingdom of Elohim as a believer. All right, let's get started and have a word of prayer. Father, we come before you in the mighty and in the matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach, our Savior, our King, our hope, our peace, our joy, our strength. Everything that we have is because of you, and nothing that we have is without you. We are asking you today to be with us, to be in us, to be through us, as we even enter a time of sacred consecration unto you. That's right. Every week we have a day that we are consecrating our lives to you per your instructions for all of humanity. So we take it seriously and we enter in. We labor to enter in. But today, you've proven to us that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of you, Yahweh, our Elohim. Therefore, we take opportunity now not to come before you slack. We take opportunity we take opportunity right now to repent for any and all sins, every thought and ideal not like you. We're asking you now that by your blood cleanse us. We willingly bathe beneath that blood that comes from Emmanuel's vein, and we need the word, that water that cleanses us from our sins by virtue of the power of your word. We're asking you today to hear our cry. We know that you raised Yeshua from the dead. We know that he sits in your right hand making intercession for us. We believe it in our hearts. Therefore, we confess it with our mouths. Yahweh, you did this great thing, none but you. And you did it because you loved us first. And we now take opportunity to make an effort to show you that we want to know more about what you've done for us and how you've done it, to give us an opportunity to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful servants. And Father, today we bow in reverence of you. I decrease all things VW, that you, Adonai, would increase. Teach us and we'll teach us and we'll learn. Show us and we'll see. Speak to us and we will hear what thus says you, Yahweh, our Elohim. Now we avail this program to you. Teach us. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we all say, and we all pray, Amen. All right, everybody, grab your Bibles. Come on. Moderators, moderate, please. My rooms, get them up. Let's get going. We got a lot to talk about, discuss, but we're going to hit it and quit it, and we're going to be done. All right, so you're entering into your work weekend, okay? And we know that there are a lot of different things, but today's subject matter says, hey, she wasn't ready. No, she wasn't ready. Now, this message is going to be something that's going to help many of you who have always aspired to be what typical Christendom says to be. Oh, you're all able-bodied ministers and you need to be in ministry and God is going to use you to do this ministry and that ministry. I want to help you understand the dynamics of that so that you don't get yourself caught in the traps that will lead you into the situations that this dear sister of ours in this writ is going to be making clear for us. All right. So let me set the backdrop the best way I know how, and that is by the word. I'm not going to tell it to you. I'm going to let you read it. And then we're going to realize, oh no, Kevin Hart made a very humorous moment and a very very funny soundbite, and it went this way: "She wasn't ready. No, she wasn't ready." Now you think I'm being, carnal? I promise you, I use humor from every possible comedian that I can, because without truth, you don't have comedy. And the funny thing about truth is it makes you laugh at yourself once you see that truth played out in your own life. That's right. Yeah. So let's look at now what the writ says. We're going to talk about why she wasn't ready. Now, I gave you a little bit of insight. If you look at the board on the screen, I'm going to put my Bible up on the screen. So those of you who are viewing it on VWJ Ministries on YouTube and VWJ Ministries on Facebook, you can see this. Ministry and public servanthood always meet a roadblock in most cases. Why? Because the individual likes the idea, but is not prepared for the ordeal. Let's talk about that today. All right. Now, I want to make sure that we are paying as close attention as we can to this, because there is a lot in that. A lot of people like the idea of marriage. They are in love with marriage, but not in love with the person they marry. I'm not going to talk about that today. I just want to give you an idea of how this actually is just a microcosm of a bigger issue, and this concept of, no, she wasn't ready. Now, before my gender opposites think I'm coming for the women, I'm not. All right. I'm coming for this spiritually and naturally. In the natural, it's first true in the spiritual, right? So when I say, oh no, she wasn't ready, and we show this to you in the writ, it will be a spiritual application that we're all going to apply. So in the natural, it's a woman giving this analogy. There's a woman in this example. However, in a spiritual concept, I am a man, full-blooded man. All right. Come for me if you want. But in the spiritual, I am the bride of Messiah. Therefore, we have a feminine issue. So it's not that you're feminine. It's just that this is the bride. And many times that bridegroom, that bride of the groom, isn't ready. Remember the story in Matthew chapter number 25, when the 10 virgins were there, 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. Oh no, she wasn't ready. Get it? Watch this. Stick close to me, and I want to make sure we learn some things. I want y'all to share this page. If you got some of our people who are with us, usually on our proceeding word broadcast, moderators, tune them in, lock them in, get our elders, Spencer's, Rogers, Walker, Page, Gregory, Roche, Holland, get them all in here. Let's go. So we can talk about this, because I want y'all to be able to share this later on with as many people as possible. Won't take long to hit it. We're going to hit it and we're going to quit it. You ready for it? Here it comes. So in the book of Exodus, I want y'all to go there. Exodus chapter number 4. There is a well-known but under-preached, under-taught scenario between Moshe coming into ministry. Now, I'm going to read the writ. The writ going to talk to you and me, and then we're going to go from there. All right. Genesis. I said Genesis again, didn't I? Exodus chapter number 4. The book of Shemot chapter number 4, verse number 1. It reads, and the Bible's on the screen for those of you who can't really get a chance to see it. Here it is on the screen. And Moshe answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say that Yahweh hath not appeared unto you. That's what they're going to say, right? So this is a storyline. I want y'all to catch this real quick now. This is a storyline where Moshe is being called to ministry. What? Right. He has already left Egypt after killing a man, a Hebrew, Egyptian who killed a Hebrew. He killed a man, then he fled from Egypt, fled his princely position, went into a land called Midian, technically family, and was, because it's Midian. If you don't know Midian, go talk about Keturah, and then you'll know what Midian means. So he gets there, and Jethro finds him, and he's fond of him. In that 40-year stint, he's there in Midian. He meets Zipporah. He marries this woman, Zipporah. He becomes the prince to Midian, like he was the prince of Egypt, and him and Jethro got a great relationship. And then something happened. Moshe sees this tree burning on the top of the hill. He runs up to see why the bush has not caught fire, why the fire has not spread, and realize that this is a, watch this, epiphany for him, and life changes instantly. Now, this is where we pick up this story, because Zipporah, she married Moshe, the guy running from Egypt, willing to be the prince of Midian. And then he runs into the burning bush. Let's read the story. We're going to talk about it real quick. And when y'all get it, somebody say, no, she wasn't ready. Come on, get your Bibles up. Let's go real quick. I got to hit this now. Ready? Here we go. And verse number 1. And Moshe answered and said, but behold, this is when Moshe is talking to Yahweh, and Yahweh saying, hey, I want you to go down to Egypt, do yada, yada, yada. He said, well, who am I going to say is sending me? All right, pay attention. Verse 1. Moshe answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, Yahweh, nor will they hearken to my voice, for they will say that Yahweh has not appeared unto you. Verse number 2. Look at it closely. Very interesting stuff. He said, and Yahweh said unto him, what is in your hand? He said, a rod. He said, cast that rod on the ground and He said, cast it on the ground. Verse 3, and he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. Moshe then fled from before the serpent. Verse 4, Yahweh then said to Moshe, put forth your hand and take it up by the tail. He put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. Verse 5, that they may believe that Yahweh, your Elohim of your fathers, and Elohim of Avram, Yitzhak, and Jacob, has appeared unto you. That's why this rod is going to turn into a serpent. Verse 6, and Yahweh then said furthermore unto him, now Moshe, put your hand in your bosom. He put his hand in his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Verse 7, and he said, put thine hand into your bosom again. Do it again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and he plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. Verse 8, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe you, neither hearken unto the voice the first time or the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. So if they won't believe you with the serpent, they're going to believe you when I make your hand leprous. Okay, so don't worry about them. I got this under my wraps. Verse 9, it shall come to pass, if they will not believe the two signs, neither hearken unto your voice, that you shall take the water that's in the river in front of them, pour that water upon the dry ground, and the water which you took out of the river is going to become like blood on the dry land. Verse 10, Moshe said unto Yahweh, oh, my master, I am not eloquent. Adonai, I'm not eloquent, neither therefore, nor since thou hast spoken unto your servant, but I am slow of speech, and I'm slow of tongue. Verse 10, watch. Moshe said, Yahweh, oh my Adonai, I am not eloquent. I can't speak, neither hereto, since you've called me to be your servant. I am slow of speech, and I'm slow of tongue. Verse 11, Yahweh said unto him, who hath made man's mouth, Moshe? Who made it? Or who makes the dumb and the deaf, and who is causing the seeing or causing the blind? Have not I, Yahweh, done this? Verse 12, now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth, and I will teach you what you shall say. Verse 13, and he says, O Adonai, send, I pray thee, by hand of him whom you will send. Verse 14, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Moshe, and he says, is not Aaron that Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he's coming forth to meet you already. Now, realize that Yahweh got mad at Moshe because Moshe tried to duck out of what Yahweh was sending him to do. And he said in verse 13, he says, alas, Adonai, send, I pray you, by the hand of him who you will send. And then Yahweh's like, boy, you trying to get out of this? So the anger, verse 14, of Yahweh was kindled against Moshe. He said, listen, your brother Aaron's on his way up here. And I know he can speak well, so I'll have him speak for you. Okay, verse 14. And also, behold, he's coming to meet you. And when he sees you, he's going to be glad in his heart that he's found you. Verse 15, thou shalt speak unto Aaron and put words in Aaron's mouth, and I will be with your mouth, Moshe, with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. And verse 16, verse 16, and Aaron shall be your spokesman when you speak to the people. And he shall be even unto thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be unto him instead as of a God. Verse 17, and thou shalt take this rod in your hand, whereof you go to do these signs. Verse 18, Moshe went, returned to Jethro, his father-in-law. Here it is, pay attention. Moshe went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said unto him, let me go, I pray thee, and return to my brethren which are in Egypt, and to see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moshe, all right, Moshe, go in peace. You've been here 40 years. I don't understand what's going on, but I know you just had an encounter. So you go in peace if Yahweh is sending you. Verse 19, and Yahweh said unto Moshe, in Midian, go, return to Egypt, for all the men that sought your life are dead now. Verse 20, and Moshe took his wife and his sons and sat them up on an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt. Verse 20, Moshe took his wife and his sons and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moshe took the rod of God in his hand. In verse 21, and Yahweh said unto Moshe, when you go to return into Egypt, see that you do all the wonders that I taught you in front of Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand, but I will harden Pharaoh's heart, Moshe. No matter what you show him, he's going to be hardened in heart, right? Verse 21 part B says, and he will not let the people go no matter what you do, Moshe. Keep that in your head, all right? Verse 22, and thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. Say this to Pharaoh, Moshe. Verse 23, and I say unto you, let my son go that he may serve me. And if you refuse, Pharaoh, to let Israel go, behold, I will slay your son, even your firstborn, Pharaoh. Verse 24, and it came to pass by the way in the inn that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. Verse 25, then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, surely a bloody husband thou art to me. So he let him go. Then she said, a bloody husband thou art to me because of the circumcision. And Moshe said unto Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moshe. Yahweh said to Aaron, go into the wilderness and meet Moshe. And he went, he met him in the mount, kissed him. Verse 28, Moshe told Aaron all the words of Yahweh which had been sent him and all the signs which he had commanded. And Moshe and Aaron went together, all the elders of the children of Israel, and Aaron spake all the words which Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, and did the signs in the sight of the people, and the people believed. And when they heard Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, that they had looked upon their affliction, when they bowed their heads and worshiped. Okay, I got through that whole chapter real quick. I got a whole lot to do in a real short period of time, but I want to know if y'all got that. If y'all got that, somebody say, no, she wasn't ready. Y'all didn't say it. I don't hear nobody saying it. Come on, talk to me. All right, good. That was a real long version, but you did it anyway. Listen, those of you on YouTube, those of you on Facebook, hit the heart sign, like sign. Please, we need that help. If you're going to do anything to help the ministry, we don't need your money. We just need you to make those little keystrokes so we can push forward. Now, listen closely, because I got a short journey to give you guys. If you look at what happened to Moshe in the writ here in Shemot, the book of Exodus, that's what Shemot means, Exodus. In the book of Shemot, chapter number 4, you see that in the beginning, Moshe is being now turned into a minister. Okay, forget the fact that the prophecy is on his life, that he was going to be a deliverer of the people. Well, for the first 40 years of Moshe's life, he had to hide in Pharaoh's house, right? Because Pharaoh was trying to kill him. I think that's unique. Those of you who are going to be with me tonight for the Midrash on DKM Midrash, I'm going to really break this chapter down. I'm going to really break down this whole scenario. We're going to talk all about this in Torah, both Friday and Saturday in our Midrash study. So you want to be there for that on DKM. Now, listen. Verse 1 tells you that Moshe has now had his epiphany. Moshe has now been 40 years. Watch this. He was 40 years prince of Egypt from his birth. Right. And then he kills a man who was an Egyptian because something compelled him while he was watching this took place. And he then killed the Egyptian who was beating the Hebrew. Then he left Egypt for reasons of his own. He could have dealt with that because he was the prince of Egypt. He could have killed an Egyptian if he wanted to. He could have. but something got to him, right? We'll talk about that later on as well. So now Moshe is 40 years leaving Egypt as a prince, goes into the land of Midian, running from Egypt and those who sought to seek revenge on him. And so he gets out there, he meets Jethro. He's out there with that, meets his Jethro's daughters. Then he meets Zipporah, his oldest daughter, Jethro's oldest daughter, and he marries Zipporah. Now, here's the catch, y'all. Pay attention. Don't let this go. When Zipporah meets Moshe, Moshe is running from Egypt. Moshe is trying to find peace. Moshe is now going back into his old instincts, but he becomes a shepherd and a great business partner, and now the prince of Midian, because Jethro, Zipporah's dad, was the sheik, technically the king of that Midian region. And so Moshe coming in, showing his skill set, showing his civil prowess and his governmental prowess, because he was the prince of Egypt, y'all. Don't forget, Moshe was the prince of Egypt. So when he goes to Midian, he falls right in line, not intentionally. It just happens that way. They need leadership. He provides leadership. He's been educated. And then Zipporah meets this man, who is the requirements for Midian are far less than what they were for Egypt. And so when he comes in, him and Zipporah meet, they connect, they go out, they get married, they got children. They're there for 40 years making a life. Did y'all hear me? Moshe is in Midian for 40 years. He done settled in. He's hidden from what was in Egypt. It's now dead. And he really wasn't hiding. He just didn't want to deal with it. And so at the end of the day, now he is married to Zipporah. And Zipporah got this. You know what, ladies? God sent her a man. Woo, how about Shataho? You know, because it wasn't like Jethro and them did not know Yahweh. Because Jethro and them, if you know the story of Keturah, are technically the Midians. So Midian is a son of Keturah, Abraham's last wife. So Midian knows Yahweh. Why? Because these are Abraham's children. So everybody's wondering how Moshe goes into this burning bush out into the wilderness, and there it is. And Jethro's like, okay, cool. We you know, do what you got to do, because they know Yahweh. They may have had other gods, but they know the God Yahweh, because their daddy's name was who? Abraham. Nobody pays attention to this, and you're not being taught this in schools of theology, but you need to get it only if it's like this ancillary piece. So Moshe and Zipporah link up, and there is nothing in Moshe's mind about doing no daggone ministry. Zipporah fell in love with a man who was a good husband, who was a good father, who was a good son-in-law to her dad, you know, because that was daddy's girl, right? She was the oldest of the family, so she's sort of kind of eldership herself, and she meets Moshe, who knows how to lead a woman because he himself is a leader. She loved this man. We got babies together. You know what I mean? We done built this house together. You know what I mean? Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing. I can't have you, Moshe. I got you, Moshe. Y'all know what she did. That's what she did. You ain't got to like it. It's Friday. I'm going to have fun with it. So she is in love with Moshe, the shepherd, the daddy's, business partner and prince of Midian, and this great father, this great husband. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And so that 40 years, y'all, that's how she's known this man. And then suddenly, Moshe got saved. Oh, y'all thought Moshe was saved all the time? Y'all thought Moshe was out there serving God? 80 years of Moshe's life, Moshe wasn't serving God. Oh, I'm going to get deep into this right here. So many of you, like myself included, when we met our spouses and we got married, our spouses met the us they met. And if you're a woman or a man, by the time you got saved, it sounded like a great idea. Oh, My husband, my wife is a woman, is a man of God. And look what God is doing in the auditorium of the citizenship we are fellowshipping with. They're able to help communicate some of the pastor's messages. They're able to bring some of the stuff together. They're being sent out on ministry. They're being sent out to talk. They're being this, they're being that. My husband, my wife is now a pillar of the religious community, and we serve God. We love God. We ain't no longer out there, hitting it to the wall. We not out there at the jib joint no more. You know what I mean? Getting it in and ain't nothing wrong. We are respectable people now. We've been married for 15, 20 years, and now, or we've been married for 7 years and young, but we done changed our life. And I love this man. I love this woman. Are y'all really hearing what we're saying? And so that's the person Zephora married. A builder, a father, a provider, a man trying to make sure the community stays together as it should. And then this joker up and got saved. She wasn't ready. Zephora does not know what's going on in Moshe's mind, but because she's always honored her husband, loves her man, and she's going to follow her man. And then her man went to her dad, who is his king, and her father, who she honors both of them. They talk. Moshe says, hey, Jethro, I don't know what's happening, but I got to go to Egypt. And Jethro is like, I think I know what's happening myself, but yeah, all right. I'm taking my wife, which is your daughter, and I'm also taking my family. I gotta go do this. Yeah, he just showed me how to turn a rod into a serpent, and I put my hand in, and he's gonna do that, and then I got to turn water into blood. I don't even know how I got to do this. The tree still ain't burning, man. The tree up there right now, it's not burning, Jethro. I don't know about no tree that don't burn, Jethro. The tree is burning, but it ain't consumed, Jethro. I don't know what's going on. Something I got to follow. I'm compelled to do this. Zephora don't know that man, y'all. Jethro, his wisdom says, all right, son, I give you permission to go in peace. Abdicate your responsibilities here in Midian and take my biggest worker bee with you, your wife and y'all's children, and go do as you've been called. I know Father Abraham would probably be proud of you. Moshe puts his wife and his children on a donkey, and they go to Egypt. Now, when Zephora is on her way, a part of the storyline you don't see instantaneously is that Jethro and Midian didn't believe in circumcision. Okay, so not that they didn't know about it, they just didn't practice it. But Moshe now has been compelled, because he's been up there talking to the father at the burning bush. He done took his shoes off. This ground is holy. He done had major conversations. The tree is burning and he ain't inhaling, but he's getting high, right? And so I said that was funny. Y'all gonna laugh at something I said. Okay, all right, yeah. So he's up there, he does, and he's making it happen. And he comes back down, and all this information is given to him, and he knows that his son must be circumcised. His children must be circumcised. Now, I can only imagine the conversation that Zephora is having with Moshe, because her dad and her brothers, or her men of the region, and her sister's children, that none of them got circumcised. We don't do we don't practice that in our culture. See, y'all wasn't ready for this. Y'all talking about her. Y'all wasn't ready for this, were y'all? So Zephora and Moshe are having a conversation. Quite apparently, we just don't have the rest of the storyline. So why would she come and sling her son's foreskin, who has to be not an 8-day-old baby? He has to be older. And she comes and slings his foreskin down at Moshe's feet while they're at the inn on the way to Egypt. So that means that when they left Egypt, after Moshe got permission from her dad, his father-in-law Jethro, to leave, the conversation, Zephora, we have to circumcise our sons, because the Israelis we're going to are circumcised people. Bro, you must be out your mind, bro. Look, now I'm not where daddy at. You look, I can't go back and talk to my father, but this right here, nah, we don't get down like that. We don't do that here. That's what this is about. You going down there and you gonna start acting like that now? Who are you? I don't know you. Fine. I'm glad you got some epiphany and some enlightenment. And now you want to be and do and say, but look here, man. Well, I'm not, you want me to do that to my son? Most like, all right, look, all right, I have to do it because I'm compelled by he who is calling me to do this. Even your father knows that this is something neither one of us can control. There is something dynamic going on here. Moshe, look, for that's all good. Hallelujah. Great. Wonderful. But I'm not taking we're not hurting our sons. Like, no, ain't gonna happen. Mm-mm. So while they traveling on the way to Egypt, they stop into an inn. And then because Zipporah has always loved and followed her husband, now she's in conflict because she's in different territory. She didn't marry this missionary. She didn't marry this prophet. Are y'all getting what I'm trying to tell y'all? She didn't marry this person. She married Moshe, but this 40 years, I ain't never seen this. Are y'all really paying attention? So I'm trying to help you understand what's going on in a lot of ministries. Y'all don't understand when the ministries find themselves in trouble. I can tell you personally, the person that my wife married was not the person that she was with. When we started doing all these things, I was completely different. There are brothers that I know who married wives, and those wives became ministers and whatever. And there was a complete, and they're like, yo, I didn't marry this. I didn't sign up for this. And you know what they all said? No, they wasn't ready.
My God, you on somebody's toes. Keep going.
Do y'all understand this? So now, while this is going on, Zipporah, who loves her husband, she then got permission from her dad, and her dad and Moshe are tight work with what they're doing. And she doesn't understand all these cultural changes she got to suddenly make. She wasn't ready. And now you want me to cut my son? Because them people that know you going to do that stuff, Aaron done met you on the road and we talking, and Aaron's got you convinced that you got to circumcise your son before you come back and talk before the people. See, if you don't know culture of Israel, you don't understand all that went on with Aaron and Moshe's meeting when Yahweh sent Aaron to meet Moshe, and Aaron became Moshe's mouthpiece. Somebody say she wasn't ready.
She wasn't ready.
So now what happens is there is a conversation from the point of Midian to the point of wherever this inn is. And there is a heated within issue that Zipporah is dealing with. And she is going to be obedient to her husband, but she didn't want to be. She goes, and though Moshe and Aaron were supposed to do this, cleaving of the skin, she looked at him, and Moshe probably said, and I'm subjective here, Moshe probably said, all right, listen, we'll talk about this again later, Zipporah. I understand your anger. I'm conflicted too, but it is what it is. So when this is over, we'll get to it. Let's just get to Egypt right now. And Zipporah is conflicted because she's never had to have a conversation of this type with her husband that she felt like going against him and punching him in his eye. You trying to hurt my child, our child? You want to do that to him now because of a custom of this God of the burning bush? Though I know Yahweh, he ain't told us to do that. So now she's conflicted. She wants to obey her husband. Her father's got full trust in her husband, but she's a mother and she ain't never been through none of this. She didn't marry this spiritual guy. She married a nice, good dude, solid man. Something clicked in her. Something just snapped in her. She went and she did the circumcision without Moshe, without Aaron, just completely just off the cuff. She circumcised her son. And basically when she came back and she took those foreskins of her son and she slammed them down at Moshe's feet. Oh, y'all didn't read that part? Let me read it to y'all real good. Y'all didn't read that part? Let me give it to y'all again. Tell me y'all don't know this woman. Some of y'all, come on. Tell me y'all don't know this person, because it's not just a woman. It's going to be a man too. You just took it and slammed it down, right? Look at verse number 22. verse number 24. And it came to pass by the way in the inn, the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, whatever it was. And remember, verse 24 is taking you through a journey. They are on their way to Egypt. They stop. Verse 24, we're in Exodus 4:24. And it came to pass by the way in the inn that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. Who? Moshe. Y'all didn't get that, did y'all? Why? Because Moshe apparently had not done what he was supposed to do, and that was to circumcise that boy. Why? Probably because Zipporah was giving him a fit. Moshe knew the servant Elohim. Granted, he just proved himself with the snake. He proved himself with the leprosy. He proved himself with Aaron meeting him along the way and kissing each other. Hey, brother, my brother, got you. You're my mouthpiece. But the circumcision piece, Yahweh, yeah, I got it, because before I left Egypt, before I went and hid in Pharaoh's house, I was too born in Amram and Yoshabel's home. So circumcision was what we did. Y'all didn't get that? Okay. So y'all gonna talk to me no more? Okay. So now 80 years later, Moshe is not this arrogant man who's going to force his wife to do what he say. Moshe is like, look, here's how this got to go. And he's calm. He's talking to her. He's been a prince of Egypt. He's the prince of Midian. Now he's on his way to do something of God. And he's at peace with his soul. He's like, all right, okay, so babe, I know you're not ready for that, but here's what's got to happen. Okay. So this conversation had to be brewing and stewing with him. So verse number 24, look at what it says. It came to pass by the way in the end, they're not in Egypt yet, that Yahweh met Moshe and sought to kill him. Because Moshe had not done what he was supposed to do, circumcise his boy. Now Zipporah sees that Moshe is going through something because Elohim met him to try and kill him. Yahweh met him to try and kill him. The wage of sin is death. Moshe has not done what he's supposed to do. That's sin. And the penalty for that is death. So when Zipporah sees her man going through spiritually because of this new enlightenment of hers, she's like, I can't lose Moshe. He get on my nerve, but I can't lose him. And because of this overwhelming experience that she is seeing Moshe fight with Yahweh concerning, y'all didn't get that, did y'all? Because they're not teaching that. She's fighting with Yahweh. She's watching this scenario develop, and she's like, oh, God, and I can't lose Moshe. So now she's got to make a choice. She goes and she circumcises her son. Now watch what it says. Look at the writ. Y'all going to say, oh, he's being subjective. That's eisegetics. Watch. Verse 24, and it came to pass in the way in the end that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and she cut off the foreskin of her son. And in saving Moshe's life by doing that, she cast down at his feet the foreskin. And she says, you know what, Moshe? You are a bloody husband to me. You made me shed the blood of my son. You are a bloody husband to me because of this circumcision. She wasn't ready. And now we'll talk more about this later on tonight, because when she's doing this for the sake of one, saving Moshe's life, as it were, from the compelling that has him moving in this direction, now she's got to deal with this harm unnecessarily in her mind to her son. She's like, man, what has happened to you? I've known you for 40 years. This is not of us. And you are, at this moment, you are a bloody husband to me. I can only imagine what she was going through in her heart and her head. Well, this is what it's like in ministry. Now, if you don't know the story of Zipporah and Moshe, she goes down into Egypt. They set up camp and live in Egypt. Moshe goes to Pharaoh, let my people go. Aaron's there doing all the things, being the mouthpiece for Moshe. And Pharaoh, as promised, was hardened in his heart. Yahweh said, I'll harden his heart. Tell him to let him go. Every time you tell him, he's going to harden people's heart, right? Yahweh's going to harden Pharaoh's heart not to let the people go. So Zipporah is there for much of this. But then Zipporah gets sent home. to be with her father so Moshe could focus. So that would indict. This isn't just about protecting his wife Sephora from the forces that could attack him. This is about Sephora. She ain't understanding the side of Moshe. She didn't sign up for this. I'm really helping more ministers than you think. She didn't sign up for this, so she don't understand none of this. And quite frankly, in his home, if he comes home and you're always down there, you're doing this and over here, and these people saying this, and okay, it's great that they loving on you, and they don't, half of them don't even believe you. Some of them are trying to find ways to undermine you, and all of this that goes on in ministry. She wasn't ready for this. That's not the man she married. That's not the life she had forged for 30 years at least with this man. And now you're letting all of that go for this compelling, this thing you call salvation, this ministry, this service to humanity. I can't process this. I need to get out of here and go back to a place I can think, and that's my daddy's house. So if you don't know the story, long story short, and I paraphrase with purpose, Zephora goes back home to her father. And if you follow the story, when Moshe does set the people free, Yahweh lets them go after Pesach, and then they are in the wilderness. Moshe and Jethro meet up in the wilderness, and Jethro is like, hey, how long are you going to keep your wife and your children, my grandchildren, with me out here? What is it that's got you so held up out here that you can't be the husband I know you have always been, the father I know you have always been? And Jethro brings his daughter, Moshe's husband, back to Moshe. And then Jethro sees the dilemma. And most of you don't know that Moshe and Zephora end up getting a divorce. She goes back with her dad one time and don't come back.
Wow.
And that's why Miriam was made a leper. Because Miriam made a complaint to Aaron, her brother, the high priest, the prophetess Miriam. That's why you prophets better watch your mouth. Be careful. And so when Miriam says, who does Moshe think he is? Like, he the only one that hear from God. And Elohim came down and took both of them to Moshe to let Moshe know what they were talking about behind his back. But watch, that conversation started because Miriam did not like the Ethiopian woman that Moshe took to now be his wife. So where's Sephora? So the point is, when Moshe started ministry and things started changing from what he used to be, that Sephora knew him to be, and though it was a good thing, Sephora couldn't handle it. She wasn't ready for it. And Moshe didn't know how to prepare her for it. So no, she wasn't ready. And everything she had ran a bit of contrive, a bit of tension, too much tension for the things he had to get done, for the purpose for why he was called. And she had to be out of his space so he could have peace and she could have peace. So many of you who are in ministry, you better be careful. You understand what ministry is about before you just start thinking about it's about lights, cameras, action, money, travel, fame, renown, integrity, column of community, pillar of community, and somebody who can do certain things, and people gonna look up to you and pat you on your back and put you on a pedestal. You better realize your whole world internally will change. And if you're not ready for it, bride of Messiah, you will look like five of the 10 virgins. You will look in theory like Sephora. And many ministry families are, in fact, bothered by the mistress of the church, of the purpose, of the ministry. And before you realize it, you're in two different places. She wasn't ready. So before you, my brother, my sister, who feels called by God to do some great work, the Holy Spirit told me, I hear all of that. But what you must learn from this storyline is that once that's been done, and though you say, well, this is different, that's Moshe. Moshe was called by Elohim and he went down there. Okay, but there's still narrative here. because Jethro came back to try to give Moshe understanding as to, hey, this can still work, but you're going to need to give these tasks to other people. Make sure your wife or your husband, whichever one of you is the opposite called in ministry, so you believe, one, you get counsel from wisdom in ministry. Two, you make sure your spouse is coming along with you, not for the hope and the pitch and the sales pitch of fame, money, influence, man of God, woman of God, first lady, whatever that titling stuff is that gets in people's head and make them feel grand. You make sure, because two can't walk together except they be agreed. Does it sound like Zipporah was in agreement with the circumcision?
No, sir. No, sir.
Does it sound like she was in agreement with what Moshe was having to do down there in that land, keeping the people and giving them commandments and all that? No, it doesn't. So much so that her daddy had to get involved. So those little nuances are very important to pay attention to. I wanted to give y'all that today. I hope that it was edifying to you. I got much to share with this on this. Well, I'm hoping to open up more of a study on this for some of you, and I hope you have some questions about this during our Midrash Friday night at sundown, well, around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturday around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we will be teaching how to Shabbat, how to do the Moedim, and what the commandments of Elohim are. And then maybe in study can engage and ignite from this. It'll be my honor to talk with you and share with you what thus says Yahweh our Elohim. Did anybody get any encouragement from this? Did anybody see something you never saw before in this passage about this Zipporah? How many of y'all didn't know she was they went separate ways and Moshe married another woman? All right, very quickly. Rogers, go.
Shalom. I am thankful that I've got an understanding of actually what happened. When she said, "Thou art a bloody husband," I thought it was, she was so mad because she had. I didn't really know exactly what she was saying.
She was so mad because of what?
When she said, "Your bloody husband," It was as if she had just cussed him out, shall I say. Cussed him out. Because she was so mad. And then the next thing that I'm appreciative of understanding is the fact that I knew they separated. I knew they separated twice. But then how in the church world, so many will ostracize you for getting a divorce, but they don't realize or they don't choose to understand that even Moses got a divorce. So with that, I yield.
And yet cry, God don't like divorce. See, that very phrase is one of the reasons I left Christianity long ago and went into Islam and found out that we were reading the Bible wrong. And I learned that while I was studying to be an imam in Islam. Okay. And that's what made me come back to the faith with a whole new understanding of just how sheltered around Revelations we who are Christians are about reading that Bible. We didn't read it. We didn't read it from the lenses we should have been reading it from. And so many people don't even realize that it wasn't that God didn't like divorce. Watch this. Y'all ready for this? Can I give y'all a mind blow? And when I give it to you, if the mind blow hits you, I want to see mind blow emojis all over the page, all over the thread. Y'all ready for this? I got to go. Come on. Tell me. Y'all want this mind blow?
Absolutely. Awesome.
Okay. It's just 3 people on Clubhouse. Okay. I wish I had some more. All right. Facebook, YouTube. Y'all ready for this mind blow? Get ready. Find that mind blow emoji. Here we go. Watch this. We would always say in Christianity, ignorantly, God hates divorce. That ain't true. Yes, it is. He told him, he said, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. Well, if that's the case, I say like Yeshua said, Yahweh gave Moshe the right to give the divorcement. Did you know why? Contrary to your Christian church trying to galvanize and retrofit marriages, I'm walking into very choppy waters right now. People are going to start dropping off. There they go. They start dropping off right about now. Y'all get it? Y'all better get this. Messiah told the Pharisees, if he hates divorce so much, He gave Moshe the right to have you all get divorced because of your stiff neck and your hard-heartedness. We told you not to go up and marry people in the groves, and then when the cloud moves, you bought down that person you got married to in the groves and try to bring them into the the commonwealth. And he's like, no, if you want to move where the cloud moves, you got to divorce that wife, and if you had children, you got to divorce that child. Because Yahweh didn't put that together. You did. See, Yahweh said, what I have put together, let no man put asunder. How many of y'all got married under God? I don't mean in your church because you married somebody from church. You thought God did it. Look what God done did. He done brought me a woman of virtue. He done brought me a Proverbs 31. That woman still probably ain't in your church right now. I promise you, if you learn Proverbs 31 rightly, you would stop saying you the Proverb 31 woman. I know you wishing to be, but baby, trust me. Most of your marriages, God didn't put together. So now you're trying to have marriage ministries with ideas and concepts that don't go along with Yahweh. He didn't put your marriage together. Yahweh don't work in retrofit. So now I'm going to get in more trouble right here. She wasn't ready. Watch. Because once you come into the light, if you got married in the dark, you married this person in the dark, you didn't see that person. You only saw the glitter of that person. You ever been to a club and you see the hair and you see his muscles and you see all the props that they got on the dates and the lights glimmering and shimmering. So you see a nice, very nice looking imagery. But man, when you come into the light and you realize all that made up person is gone. You're like, what in the world did I marry? Who are you? What is you? Once the light comes on, remember, Yahweh brought you out of darkness and into the marvelous light. The funny thing about being married in an unsaved state of mind, and then you get saved, even if both of you get saved, you wake up to a different person. You're like, who in the world did I marry?
Yes. Sounds like Leah to me.
So you need to understand that Yahweh wasn't against divorce. He was against divorcing what he put together. And I can promise you right now, some of y'all gonna get mad at me and again tune off from me, but did he put yours together?
I don't know.
Now, I'm not trying to convince anybody to go out and get a divorce. That is not what we're talking about here. I hate divorce. So don't get it twisted. But before you get sold on this narrative throughout this construct of religion that this is such a horrid thing, please make sure you get proper counsel, which is why I have so much marriage counseling on my plate. Is it possible for two people who God may not have put together to be together? It is. But don't you dare try to force somebody to stay together because in your church, God hates divorce. You could be leaving two people to harm each other irreparably, mentally. And in some cases, as I deal with, even physically. So I wanted to make sure you understand that relationships like this are real within ministry. Don't, as Elder Rogers said, look at them and ostracize those people. Look at them and try to find out how can we get you to counsel from the writ that will get you to a place where you can be at peace and understand all the dynamics for why you have a rift. Many men are not prepared for their woman to be a leader. Many women are not prepared for their man to be a leader of faith like he was because they married Thug, they married Junebug, he married Clarice, he married Willoughby, who will cut you 2 razors in her teeth. And now
For real.
It's completely different when the light of the word comes into your life and now you're realizing, I love my wife. I mean, we've been through some stuff. I love my husband. We've been through some stuff. But man, wow, I didn't know. Anybody ever said, I wish I would have known that before I did? I ain't trying to get rid of it. That's why Paul says, if you and your wife or husband are content living with each other, y'all stay together. Don't just get divorced because y'all got saved. No. Stay together, figure it out, work with the word, let the counsel of the word give you what you need. So it's not that you can't be, but don't be locked by some foolish person whose only objective is to make their church numbers grow and tell you, oh, this ain't of God. God don't like divorce. Listen, let me tell you something. Moshe married an Ethiopian woman. He wasn't a harem kind of guy. So what happened to Sephora? Because after this, you hear nothing more about Sephora. But see how we don't go into and unearth and extrapolate those truths because we can't get the storyline. Why? Because we were taught to leave the culture of Israel, i.e. the Jews, alone. And you have to factor that in to everything that took place. Wow. All right, everybody. This is why I want y'all to take on marriage counseling. If you don't have marriage counseling, and maybe you might be like, you know what, I just need, at least, even if you're married and been married and think that you live in a good, happy life, at least make sure you start finding out Marriage by Elohim's Design. Shameless plug. I'm not really plugging it. Sorry, I shouldn't have said shameless plug. I'm not really plugging it, but it is a very good help. Anybody who's ever been through marriage, anyone who's ever been through our coursing called Marriage by Elohim's Design. It's typically 6 months, and it doesn't matter if you are, we prefer you to be in a premarital state. But we also help the most in the mid-marriage state. And we also use the same programming to help in post-marriage. So you don't take into a new potential marriage the garbage that killed your first marriage. If you'd like to know more about Marriage by Elohim's Design, contact our office. Go to vwministries.com. Let Elder Page know you want to sit down and talk with me. Don't come to me to talk about your spouse. Come to me to say, hey, I'd like me and my spouse to learn more about the marriage Elohim design. Because most of y'all are living under the marriage, your church design, or your mama, your cousin and them told you, and Junebug and Peaches told you. What you did to get them, you got to do that same thing to keep them. Marriage is a give and take. Marriage is a compromise. Every one of those is a lie. But I get what we've made them to mean. They sound good and they have good intentions, but you got to be careful what you're into. And that's what Marriage by Elohim Design does. All right. And if you've never been married and you're trying to get married, I don't care how old you are, at least knowing how Yahweh designed marriage will help you a mighty, mighty long way in this journey. Well, Zion, I got to get going. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Did y'all enjoy this? Can I get a hey, yay, no, say? I don't want to talk to you no more, Mr. Apostle, man. I don't like you. You are bloody pastor to me now. I get it. I get it all the time. All right. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed it. You got questions, we'll be talking about this over Sabbath. So those of you who are Sabbath keepers with us, be here, either Friday night or Saturday, whenever Yahweh releases me from prayer, my time of study. We're going to get into some of this stuff. And so you just have some questions. It'd be great to talk about it in the writ and see what the word of Elohim has to say about it. Well, again, Zion, remember this ministry has always been supported by those of you who are contributors by time, by keystrokes, and yes, some of you by contributions of great gifts and what have you. But we want you to know right now, we don't exist here without you having questions. And that's all we want to do is help everyone have a better relationship with the Bible and the Torah of the Bible so that we can have a best relationship with the God of the Bible. All right. This is again Apostle V.W. Jones, and you're here on the broadcast of the Proceeding Word. And as we told you before, she wasn't ready. Hope to see you guys back again real soon.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.